Good morning, traders, and a very happy Tuesday out there to everyone. Hope that y'all had a nice evening there, and should be a rather interesting day in front of us. And just before we go diving into our charts here, just a few small items to be aware of. We just have good trades balance out at 8:30 Eastern there, and member bar set to speak at noon Eastern. But outside of that, we are nice and clear on the economic calendar front. So, with that said, we're going to come in here and jump into these daily charts for the ES. As we well know, we had fairly good trendiness going on during yesterday's action, a good range expansion bar, up through the 5 SMA, and we put in a high of 48.03 and a quarter. So we had some nice rhythm. As we know on the intraday charts, we kept it fairly trendy all the way up until the end of the day without much counter-reactive movement throughout the day. So for today, at least in the morning session, what we can also be on guard for is in case we see any type of that Z-Day type of activity, consolidation, just to take into account some of the progress we had made during yesterday's action. So very large range expansion bar, and so far keeping it as an inside range bar during the Globex session. Globex high, 47.98.75, and Globex low, 47.77 and a quarter. So not half bad considering the Globex range kept the market, nice and active overnight. So far working with the pause bar, trading, inside of the previous day's range. And as far as the intraday data goes, looking at our hourlies and the 120-minute time frame, we know that we had our nice feeling of, a bit of a higher low, but more importantly, our impulse to the upside, right? A little bit of the one time framing mode. So we made some fairly good progress. We know that we were also trading into some of the lower developed areas from our trading done much earlier on, the beginning of the year, the first day of the year. So we made good progress, and then during the overnight session, we've been consolidating some of the advancement that we made yesterday in the ES. And as we come down, we'll keep an eye on it. 47.73 and change is going to be our 120-minute moving average as it continues to rise up. So we've left a bit of a tail, but we'll certainly keep an eye, around that 47.33. And then also as we get closer towards the opening, should we have our internals fairly normalized, meaning, normal market breadth and not too large of a gap on the opening. We could see, like we said, since we did have good trendiness yesterday, we could see some early morning, rotation trades on both sides of the opening price, etc., just to digest some of that upside progress we had yesterday. But we'll take it one step at a time for now, consolidating closer towards the 120-minute EMA, and we'll keep an eye, see as to where we'll be set to open compared to yesterday's pit session range, since we're trading nicely inside of yesterday's daily bar there. So as far as the ES goes, not half bad. We'll keep an eye on those dailies coupled with our 120-minute display of data there. On the DAX side of the equation here, I'll blow this one up just a notch. We also can see we had a good extension in the DAX yesterday, really not too far off from that of the ES, so good extension. They kept it as well as an inside range bar during the Globex session, so the DAX, kind of fitting in with the tone there. So we're retracting it back. We have the 5 SMA in here for the DAX, like 16,770, so testing in that vicinity, but holding up all right. Coming into the intraday to compare, like up against those S&Ps there, whether you're looking at the 120-minute display or the hourly, they'll show the similar feeling that we had a good impulse to the upside. Similar feeling with the higher low in the form of a tail. So, good progress that we had made. It's just the only thing now is that we're working it back. So the 16,782 is going to be a little over and under in the case of our DAX future there. Already, loosening up, just having some give back if we take this, you know, more on a later time frame, just so we can hone in more to see what we had unfold during the Asia session. We had pretty flat during the Asia, and then on the Europe session, 2 a.m. to 3 a.m. Eastern, we started to pick up in steam a notch more. So currently sitting in here with a little loss of momentum on the 15-minute charts, but that's in the backdrop of having a bit of a test down on the hourly. So little conflicting 15-minute charge, trying to find some footing whilst the hourly is still working down. So might also set the stage for some rotational activity to start to form in the case of the DAX future. For now, inside range bar, so not half bad for our DAX configuration there. And then moving on along here, we have our currency group as well, our EC. Kind of interesting out of the group. EC kept it a little bit more on the contained side of things, right? So we traded inside of our bar there from the 5th. We had an outside range bar and then an inside range bar in the case of the euro currency. It was a bit of a wide day there, so we haven't breached either side of that. We have the 11.0310 as the 2-day high and 1.09080 as the 2-day low, so we're smack in the middle here with this euro currency, and also where we're poised currently. We can see if we look over to the left hand side, we had put in a lot of work here before, so it's not necessarily a low developed region, and that would take place more so on the other side of 1.1 even. So currently euro currency, we have one lower low, one higher high, so we're for now a little bit range bound here on the 120-minute display for that of the EC, but a breach on either side of that 2-day range there would likely generate some additional interest. But for now, coming into the session, just trading inside of our previous day's bar there, so keeping it nice and tame in the EC, coupled with the fact, just to put it out there, it's not anything like overwhelming, but you do have the 1.1 even figure there for the euro currency as well, so trading a little bit beneath that 1.1 figure there in the EC. And then we have our gold here. Gold also kind of on the interesting side, simply because it did have a good extension down yesterday, right? We were able to get beneath that 2029 and started to trade into that low developed area, right? If I blow this up on the far left hand side. So tested our toes into it beneath 2029. Left a bit of a tail, so they didn't go for the complete fill, which would have been much closer towards 2012. So GC also, for now that is an inside range bar. We could see what we've been having happen in the overnight activity. Pretty tame. This was our markup at the end of the day into our settlement there with the gold, and Asia and Europe are both, fairly tame, but they are keeping it mildly propped up. So we'll be on guard. Definitely want to keep that previous day's low on the sheet, the 2022.7, in case we were to come down and breach that. Obviously, for now, we're holding up all right. And then more of an intermediate level, not as quite substantial, but since we have two separate data points in this vicinity, also viewing 2043.8 as being a little zone of interest from these two previous cycles on the hourly chart of the GC. So testing back up in towards that vicinity now, but hasn't gone too far going yet as far as the dailies go. So that's that, and then we have our crude. You kind of see a little bit of a theme in some of these groups here, a lot of counter-reactive movement here. So crude, as we well know, pretty stout range expansion bar to the downside yesterday, right? But this is starting to form, as we well know, a lot of price bar overlap here on the dailies, coupled with the 72.53 has been traded around quite a bit on these daily charts as well. This was our original cycle low that we had. I could say, for these past couple of days, we, sliced through it yesterday, coming right back up above it. A lot of trading large bars taking place around the 72.53. So currently, we're also an inside range bar like the gold, right? But we're coming up back above 72.53. However, this will be another one that's going to show up quite nicely on the market profile visual, simply because, as we could see here on the hourly charts, we've been going through several waves of this, right? Large impulse down, we come back up and fill in that region, right? Impulse down, and then we proceed to come back and fill. So we've been kind of going through this theme, and obviously, as we well know, we had a pretty good heavy selling bar yesterday, right? Of course, this happened overnight. We came in and put in this real nice feeling of the higher low, like we had in those S&Ps yesterday on the 120-minute display. So In the case of the crude, we've already held up with the higher lows, so as we are coming up here, once again, this will show up nicely on the MP visual here because it's going to show in the fact that we're filling in some of the low developed areas from yesterday's selling pressure. And then what we would be dealing with here, as we can see, 73 and a quarter essentially would be the tippy top of all this damage that was done. So we've already had a very big run up in the crude, so we'd want to be on guard perhaps for any type of consolidation, work back some of the progress they had made from overnight. Shows up with a little more definition on the 15-minute, just the nature in which we've had good trendiness. So 73 and a quarter, next reaction high that we'd want to be a little on guard for, and just bearing in mind in case we start to form any type of sell divergences, that would be noteworthy as well in the case of the crude. But for now, they're doing all right there, just nice and active during that Globex session. And then lastly here are good old bonds, right? Our 30 years. Bonds are in an interesting stance as well. Like the gold, right? Came down. We have this big hole in the data from quite a ways back, right? Only doing partial filling in. This was from our trading on December 13th. Very large extension bar to the upside. As we can see, we left a bit of a tail down there. Traded beneath 121.20. However, certainly didn't go for a complete fill. And then yesterday we were left with more of the three pushes down type of feeling, right? In that early morning session, just from three waves on our oscillator. So we were able to get the movement to the upside, right? Our little reversion to the mean. And then we've been pulling back. So this testing now, if we are going to form any type of this A, B, C type of wave, this 121.20 becomes a fairly important level there. So we can put that with the yellow line just to denote its caution, and we'll see how those bonds start to pan out there in this early morning session. But with that said, we covered our bases here. We have our little mild 830 figure that'll be due out here shortly. So we'll let that settle in and see what we have lining up here for this nice Tuesday in front of us. Some nice standings in some of these markets, so it should be a rather interesting trading day lining up for us here. So we're going to dial it back, let this all settle in, and we'll be on our merry way here. It's a mild 830 data point, so wouldn't be expecting too many gyrations off of that. Just I'll let these early tones off of the 8 a.m. reading get themselves settled in. So we'll let this all play out and take it from there.